Greetings and welcome to Zoomcatchers Science Quest Next Gen Literary Writing Competition Winners Circle. We are here with Madison Sajous, also known as Maddie. She is the winner of the Young Adult category for her stories Dust or Demons. Super excited to have her here to talk about herself, introduce herself, tell us more fun things about her, and read from her winning story. Maddie, thank you so much for being here. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Maddie Sajous. I'm 15 years old and a sophomore in high school in New Jersey. I love to travel, read, mostly science fiction and fantasy, and I love to watch movies and TV shows and play tennis.
Great. So, with that busy schedule, how did you get involved in writing?
So I first started to write when I was in eighth grade for a class assignment that we had to do. It was a short story assignment about 5 pages in length. And after I did it, I realized that I really loved to write and create different stories, and I stuck with it.
Awesome. So, you must have had a teacher that really, or teachers that really encouraged you to writing, or they must have noticed something with you in your writing. So tell us more about your progression with your writing because you're able to submit to our next gen writing competition. So, what was it about you that wanted to have you stick with it?
So I really love to create and stories and make different characters and different plots and stuff like that. And then in ninth grade, I continued doing it as like class assignments. And then in 10th grade, I started to do it to submit to different writing competitions.
Wow, that is awesome, and I think you being here and on the show talking about that hopefully will inspire other writers out there. How did you get involved in science fiction writing, though, in particular?
I really enjoy reading fantasy and sci-fi, so as I started to write, I wanted to focus more on that since that's what I enjoy reading the most.
That makes total sense. What kinds of or what are some of your favorite sci-fi writers or novels or things like that, or even TV shows or movies?
One of my favorite book series is called Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco, and that's a fantasy book that I really enjoy reading, and it's my favorite series.
And why is that? What makes it your favorite series?
I love the fantasy in it, and I just really love the plot, and it has like really great description in it, and really great characters and character developments throughout the series, and it always keeps me interested and hooked and wanting to know what comes next.
That's amazing. I mean, the things that you just rattled off there, character development and plot and all those things, and I think, for a lot of writers out there, they may need those tips and pointers. So what kinds of tips and points would you give for people who are specifically trying to write in this genre? Because it can be difficult, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. One tip that I would have is if you're having trouble coming up with different types of ideas, you can Google or look on sites like Pinterest about um, like plots by pictures, and it'll give you a series of pictures on a different topic, and it really allows you to have your different creative interpretation for it while still giving you a general topic to focus on. So it'll allows you to have your creative freedom, but if you're having trouble coming up with an idea, it gives you a central topic to focus on.
Wow, awesome. You hear that, writers out there? You're getting some great advice from Maddie Sages, and this is really awesome. I had a question for you, just as a writer. How do you deal with like writer's block, where you can't write the next paragraph, or you don't know where to go? Have you encountered that before?
So one thing I do, and something that Letitia told me to do too, is if you look around and observe different things around you, it can really help come up with like different ideas that you have and stuff that you normally wouldn't come up with by just like sitting in your room and thinking about. If you look around and or like go on a walk or observe things that you wouldn't normally do, or just look around, you can really come up with great story ideas.
Wow, that's awesome. And Maddie, for people who may not be familiar, she is referring to Leticia Gomez. We call her the savviest literary agent this side of the Milky Way. And she was our final judge for the competition. And that was one of the prizes is a one-on-one consultation with her. So I'm super, super excited that you two have had a chance to meet. Next, I want to ask you about your story, Dust or Demons. Tell me, how did you come up with that concept? How did you come up with that storyline and that plot?
So I was sitting in my room and thinking about something to write about, and my closet is right across from my bed, and I was just looking at it, trying to come up with an idea to write, and it made me think about like an idea that I had when I was a kid, and like fears of like monsters in your closet and monsters under your bed. And I thought to come up with a story idea about that like brings it to life.
Wow, that's great because that's like, isn't that every young person, even older person's scariest thing that
Yeah.
there's something in your closet or under your bed? And I think Rihanna and Eminem had a great song about that, but that's cool. That's really cool. Because I think for some writers, they don't know what to write about, but like you suggest and like Letty says, just look in your world and see what's going on. And I'm sure there's a great scary story or could be a love story, but in this case it was science fiction. Awesome. That is so fantastic, and I love the fact that you're able to just get stories and get inspiration from your regular world, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what inspires many of us. Awesome. So now that we know more about Dust or Demons, we'd love to have you read from the story. So take it away, Maddie.
I dragged my feet to my closet door. My shoulders were slumped and my back was hunched. I slowly opened the door and ambled into the dark, tiny room. I didn't have the energy to turn on the lights, but I've been there 1,000 times. I knew I was able to navigate my own closet in the dark. I slowly strolled to the opposite side of my closet where my shirts were. As I was walking over, I suddenly tripped on an old shoebox. Before I could catch myself, I suddenly fell right into my wall. It was mostly a daze, but I remember gravitating towards it. It came closer and closer to my face. I expected to black out. I expected to get a concussion. I even expected to fall straight through the drywood. However, I never expected what would come next. I slowly woke up. I knew I wasn't in my closet, but I didn't recognize the area I seemed to be in. I thought it was just a dream and didn't think anything of it. I then saw three black, ghostly figures towering over me as I slowly awakened from my dizzy haze. They had sharp, yellow-white teeth and burning, small red eyes. They were made up of a black, translucent substance. The two picked me up by my arms. They slowly dragged me across the rocky floor. The girl and the two other shadow monsters followed closely behind. I was still woozy, so I couldn't fight back, but even if I tried, I couldn't take on one of them, let alone all five. It had to be at least 10 minutes before we arrived at the palace. My vision was all blurry, and I wasn't fully functioning, but I remember the grand, luxurious castle I was brought in front of. I looked up at the thunderous clouds that lay closely above and took in all the beauty it held. It had dark brown cobblestones piling brick by brick until it reached 200 feet in the air. As I looked up, it towered over me with a menacing grin, waiting for me to enter its mischievous halls, welcoming me into its arms of darkness.
Oh my goodness, I'm so scared. Wow, oh my God. I'm like, what happens next? And that was the perfect way to end that excerpt of that story. Amazing. I love it. I really love that story. It was filled with so much what's the word? Anticipation. I was like, what's gonna come next? What's gonna come next? How did you decide to come up with that title, curiously?
It was actually my brother's idea because I was having a hard time coming up with a really good title because I know that a title can really hook in different readers, and he came up with the title of Dust and Demons, and I wanted to try and make my own title, so at first I didn't use it, but I couldn't come up with anything, so I ended up using the idea that he gave me.
That's awesome. There's always like a great little brother. Is he younger or older?
He's younger.
Hats off to the younger brother who's like, "Hey, I got that title." That is amazing. That's amazing. Maddie, it has been just such a pleasure having you on, and once again, congratulations for that beautiful story. We love it. And for folks who want to see the full story, you can check it out on our website. And we will always be looking out for, the next great writing and the next great story. So keep checking out our website for future competitions. And Maddie, before we head out, any final thoughts or words of wisdom for those young writers out there who maybe are like, I don't know, should I keep going? I don't know, this story isn't that great. What would you have to say to them?
I would say definitely to keep practicing and keep writing, even if you think the idea isn't great. If you keep on writing and keep practicing, you will eventually develop the great ideas that you have within yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So you heard it straight out of the mouths of babes. Keep going, keep practicing, keep writing. You never know who might be reading your story. Super, super excited to have had you on here.
Thank you. Thank
Announcing.
you for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for submitting your writing. It was a wonderful, wonderful story, and I also feel like I was able to meet a great person and your dad. Say hello to Bernard and your whole family. I know that there he is. I know that your whole family has been supporting you. And what would you say for what kind of advice would you give for families who may have like a young writer in their household?
I would say that if they're feeling unmotivated to write, but that you know that they really enjoy doing it, keep on pushing them to do it so then they can, develop their creative ideas and develop their skills that they have, even if they feel unmotivated or feel that their ideas aren't good enough.
And just finally, what kind of advice would you give for people who, struggled maybe to find time? I know in our culture, our fast-paced culture, everyone's on the socials or on a device, but I imagine you probably have a lot of discipline and encouragement to carve out time to actually do the writing. So how would you advise, young people who may say, "Well, I don't have the time to write. I got the stories, but I don't know if I can do it."
I would say that you can always focus on writing short stories too, if so that it doesn't take up too much of your time. But also, like in your free time, like say you're just relaxing for a bit of time after you finish working. During that time, you can start to write like a paragraph or do like a paragraph each day or a page each day, and then eventually it'll accumulate to a whole story.
Awesome. That's awesome advice, not just for young adults, but for everybody. It's like don't expect that award-winning novel to come out right the first time. You start with page one, and then page one turns to page two, and then you have a chapter. So that is excellent advice. Pace yourself, be patient with yourself, and keep writing. I'm excited to hear about your future novels, and maybe we have a Pulitzer Prize or a Nobel Prize in your future. I wish you the best of luck, and once again, congratulations, and keep going.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Science Quest Next Gen Science Literary Writing Competition Winner's Circle with Maddie Sajous. We will see you next time.